Hi everybody, my name's Ladrin, and I would just like to share a few interesting things I've been listening and hearing in the ethers of the internet in the last, I guess, 6 months. It's something called flat Earth. So, what is flat Earth theory? Some people believe that we are living on a flat plane of existence, either a damaged planet that's been, in space, in orbit with not complete roundness, but a flat, very flat piece of rock, that's massive, and the rest is, not inhabitable at all. Other theories are that we're living on a virtual reality that is very, very flat, continues for forever, and it's a virtual reality that's been manufactured for our existence here. So, although this may be physical, is it physical? Are we questioning reality at the moment? So there's many different facts and theories and evidence out there that probably can really strongly influence people to believe that we are on a flat Earth. For my personal interest, I'm not sure if that's true. I have no evidence behind me to show that what is out there, that are we living on a flat Earth at all? The only thing that I can come up with is that we are probably potentially living on a much bigger planet than we realise. And the reason why I think this is because there's certain things that people have been picking up around the world, such as the higher you go up into the stratosphere or into the sky, towards space, you don't see the curvature of the Earth. It's completely flat. Some people do. If you look on video online and see some videos on YouTube, you might see a very, very curved-like horizon. And that might be down to really having a GoPro camera with a wide fisheye lens on there. So we can't really have full proof about what's going on unless perhaps we have an out-of-body experience and we actually physically see it ourselves with our actual eyes, or out of body and we see it out of body. So there are many different things that have interested me. I'm like, wow, that makes sense, or that is very interesting. So there's such things such as the Peter projection map, I think it's called. I might have got that wrong. It's the old type of map. So the map behind me, as you can see, is the map that you know of, and that's been around for a number of years, supposedly for geographical references, but supposedly the map is wrong. Supposedly the map looks like this, and it's round like the map is structured in a circular motion outwards, and Antarctica is on the outside. Why is that? I have no idea. There are other things such as the sun and moon that have perhaps been man-made, and they're on a circling system that is perhaps man-made itself. There's evidence for that, for basically when they, I can't remember the year of it, but at some point many years ago they launched something into the moon, and they found that the moon rang like a bell for a long while, and it sounded very metallic. So the moon has been a very mysterious object in our sky for many, many years, because it doesn't spin, it doesn't rotate, it's completely fixed. So we never see the other side of the moon. So what is really taking place there? We have no idea. So there's many other things such as to support this theory about the flat Earth, such as some tests have been made, such as on the Bedford Canal, which is located in England, and supposedly, I can't remember the actual mathematics of this, but every so many kilometres or so many miles, the Earth should bend or curve or dip at a certain rate. So they had one person on the river of this Bedford Canal, and they had, I can't remember how many years ago this was, so they had a long telescope looking at another boat at the other end, and I think someone was here with a telescope and the friend here was in another boat with a red flag. So when the other boat continued further away down the river, the very, very long strait of the Bedford Canal, the person in this boat could clearly see their friend in the other boat with the red flag the whole way. And if this was the Earth, there should be a very slight, curvature. I'm over-exaggerating there because the Earth is quite big. So, but there should have been some slight visible of the red flag dropping in the vision of the telescope of the person in the other boat. But that wasn't correct. They could see them the whole time. So it's things like that. Also, have we been lied to by our governments, by NASA? NASA, if you haven't heard before, supposedly it's an acronym which means, never a straight answer. So, are they telling us lies? There's videos out there which I've seen. I haven't been to these places, so I cannot actually, tell you the actual truth about what's going on. But these are just very visual, interesting facts that I've seen when there's been video footage of being in space from NASA, and you can see air bubbles like they're underwater. Now, NASA do training modules for people who go into space to basically have the training to be in certain airlock conditions. So being underwater is actually a perfect example of experiencing what it'd be like in space. But yet, is water like space? Supposedly space has a vacuum, so would you get sucked out of it completely? It sounds like a very dangerous thing to be upon, but supposedly the space station is out there in the sky. There's other things to support the flat Earth theory, such as airplanes. So the Earth is spinning at 1,000 miles per hour in one direction, that we know. So when you are on, say you're taking a flight from, say, the other side of the world, from America to England or London, and the flight is exactly the same distance and time going to a destination as coming back from your destination. So they do not make up the 1,000 miles per hour spinning of the Earth. That it's going to take shorter time to get to a place because you're spinning with the Earth alone. So that's very interesting. Another thing is clouds. So you see behind me there's clouds, and you can see the rays of sunlight dispersing out. So if the sun really is 9.3 million miles away, how they calculated that, I don't know, then the sunlight should be shining directly at the Earth at a horizontal position. So if you have the sun here and the Earth here, and the rays of sunlight are coming directly at it, obviously the sun is very far away, but yet sunspots can be seen. What are sunspots? So basically, if you have a bulb over a map or something, you'll see, or a shiny surface, you'll see a sunspot of where that bulb is. Of course, I don't know about the physics of space and how light can probably bend and such to speak, but there shouldn't be a sunspot there. And people have launched weather balloons with GoPros attached to them, and they've clearly seen sunspots up in space, directly shining down on the Earth. So that's very interesting. Many other things, such as going back to the map behind me, we have Antarctica on the very outer rim. Supposedly you can't get to Antarctica. Supposedly it's very protected from military. If you have ever to take your own aircraft over there, you'll be escorted away. So what are they hiding in Antarctica? Supposedly there's massive walls that are protecting something. Whatever's going on, we do not know. So there's many different things that are out there which are really interesting me. So what is it? I believe that perhaps we are on a much bigger planet than we realise, and with that I think that the Peter projection map that you see behind me is probably on the very, very top of this huge planet that we're on, and then Antarctica is the outskirts, and then probably underneath is a whole lot of land. Perhaps there is another sun under there, perhaps a man-made sun. Another interesting thing is that our sun that you see in the sky is a star, and it's known as a yellow dwarf, which means a very, very small sun. Now, for a yellow dwarf, to be a yellow dwarf, it's a very, very small. So does that mean that we have a very tiny sun on a very big planet, and why is it so close? As we know, there are probably many thousands and millions of different types of planets and stars, binaural stars taking place, different planets. We don't know the full truth of what's out there. But what's always interested me is how scientists can decipher distances in space when they haven't been that far themselves. How can they measure a certain distance themselves? Supposedly we are, as a solar system, spiraling through space, twisting and spiraling, and the sun is, you know, at the center, and the Earth and all the other planets are spiraling, and we're spiraling through the galaxy, we're spiraling through space, spiraling through the cosmos. You know, everything is in motion. So the way I see things is I don't think we are on a flat Earth. I think we're probably on a much bigger planet than we realise. I've never come to think of this, but you know, recently there have been some interesting studies and, you know, research about flat Earth. So as we know, a very, very big planet, if it's really huge, then it's going to have a lot of surface area. You're not going to see much curvature. If we're living on a much smaller planet, then we're going to see that curvature. But because we don't see that curvature, we're probably on a much bigger planet itself. Now, another very interesting thing is NASA photos, photos that you probably see on Google. The image behind me is what I found the other day on Google. I found 3 images in the space of about half an hour, where I took every image and I put them straight into a photo editing software, changed the saturation down and the contrast, and I found that there's a box on the outside of Earth on a photo that's also taken from the moon, looking at Earth from the moon. So why is this pasted and, you know, copied and pasted in? I did this myself, this photo, but there are other photos too which I've done which aren't so strong and predominant, but this one is. Another interesting thing about the moon is that when they took off from Apollo 11, they had a camera on the moon taking a photo of them departing from the moon. But all the astronauts were on the actual Apollo 11 little capsule which landed on Earth. So who took that photo? Or did they leave it to be transmitted to Earth? I don't know. So does that mean there's a, you know, expensive camera on the moon that's there? So I don't know. I'm scratching my head about this and thinking what is taking place, what is going on. But to be honest, there's quite a lot of facts and evidence out there that are pointing towards that we are perhaps being lied to. And if we are, why are we being lied to? Some other interesting things, again pointing to the moon, and why is the moon such a mysterious object? I remember some people that, you know, who saw the moon landing when they were much younger. They saw it live on TV, and they saw that the astronauts there were, you know, videoing, and suddenly they said, "Oh, look over there!" And then suddenly the screen went blank, and they went to another image. So I believe also perhaps that it was all staged. The moon was staged to be, you know, filmed in a studio somewhere. And you can also see this from different shadows as well, from pictures of the moon. So there's lots of interesting, you know, evidence out there, or things that just don't make sense. And why is this important? Because I'm curious, and you know, it's our right to know. It's our free will to know where we are going. Where are we? Because not only are we questioning ourselves of who, what, why, when, and where we are, but it's important to know where we are too, in regards to this planet, because it's interesting to know where we came from. We were born on this planet without an instruction manual. We have many thousands of ancient civilizations that have been around for a long time, thousands and thousands of years. The ancient Egyptians, other places, Tiwanaku, Stonehenge. There's places all around the world who have ancient artifacts of old civilizations. And not only that, the Mayans also calculated a 26,000 year cycle of a repetition of a certain astronomical alignments. I don't know what as such, but I suppose it's 26,000 years. So in order to see that pattern for 26,000 years, that race or that civilization must be quite an old civilization to even notice that such a long amount of years making that cycle. So who are we? Where have we come from? You know, have we got unlocked DNA that we're not knowing about? You know, have our ancestors left us? Are we left on this planet not knowing what to do? And so all these religions and cultures and beliefs and where we came from, and we have no idea. But But the interesting thing is that this keeps questioning us even more to find out, and one day we'll perhaps know all the truth. But until now, then it's our job, or not a job, to perhaps research, find information. So with this video, I ask for no judgments towards this topic, because I don't even know what to believe myself. What I'd like to believe is that we're living on a planet, in space, and and we're part of perhaps a solar system which is very ancient, and there are probably ancient technologies out there. But for some reason, we're probably being either lied to or covered up, perhaps to protect us from scientific and religious arguments and wars. Because perhaps if the real truth was to get out there, would it create conflict? Anyway, thank you for listening, watching, and